once again. Now, this is probably going to be one of the hardest acts that I have ever read, and it's a very confusing act, so hopefully with a bit of luck you might be able to understand it a little bit better, but it's taken me years to understand it. So if you think that watching this once you will be able to honour a bill of exchange, I suggest it may take more like 5 to 10 views to get your head around it, unless you take screenshots and do a bit of research. But we're going to be studying the bills of exchange, and the first thing I need you to look at, or when you look at any act, is who it is administered by. Now you'll see here that it is administered by the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment. Now it used to be administered by the Department of Justice, but that has changed, and in this new version it is administered by the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment. So when you are dealing with an act, the person that you need to address is the one who administers the act. So remember that in any act. So the first part we'll look at is in New Zealand Law Dictionary, 7th edition, page 9, administration, the performance of the executive function of government, as opposed to the judicial and legislative functions. Okay, now the executive is the board of directors of the company that runs the supposed government. The judicial and the legislative functions are very different. So the judicial function is administered by the courts, and the legislative functions are what happens in Parliament. Okay, so we'll move along to the management of a business or other organisation. Not really what we're... this one's a little bit more, the management of the affairs of a bankrupt by the official assignee in bankruptcy, but the next one is the one that we really want. The management of a deceased estate by a person duly authorised to act as executor or administrator. So they are administrating our deceased estate, which is the name of the father. The Administration Act 1969, Section 2 provides that administration means probate of the will of a deceased person. So all they are doing when they are administering a deceased estate is trying to make money for that estate. Now, we've been taught wrong. We were not taught the bills of exchange. We just went along with those funny little notes that we used to get in our pay packet every week, thinking that that was how we had to pay things. But the bills of exchange will give us a very, very different look at how we are supposed to pay. Now, the New Zealand Law Dictionary, 8th edition, bill of exchange is an unconditional order in writing addressed by one person, the drawer, that's the person who writes it, to another, the drawee, and afterwards acceptor, signed by the person giving it, requiring the person to whom it is addressed to pay on demand. Now, don't get too worried there, because we're going to explain this in detail. Okay, so this is the actual Bills of Exchange Act here. Section 3, a bill of exchange is an unconditional order in writing addressed by one person to another, signed by the person giving it, right? Requiring a sum certain money to or to the order of a specified person. We will get into this, so don't be too alarmed at this stage. Section 2, an instrument that does not comply with these conditions or that orders any act to be done in addition to the payment of money is not a bill of exchange. An order to pay out of a particular fund is not unconditional within the meaning of this section, but an unqualified order to pay coupled with an indication of a particular fund out of which the drawee is to reimburse himself or herself, or a particular account to be debited with the amount, or B, a statement of the transaction giving rise to the bill, is unconditional. Now that last part there will be covered a little bit later. So B, a statement of the transaction. Okay, so we're going to really get down to showing you the parties in a second. A bill is not invalid by reason that it is not dated, it does not specify the value given, or that any value has been given there. Okay, now there is the statement which gives rise to the bill, or the statement of transaction giving rise to the bill. So if any government department sends you a statement, now that is the statement that gives rise to the bill, and that is how you have an unconditional bill. Drawee, from New Zealand Law Dictionary again, drawee, a person on whom a bill of exchange is drawn as one who may be expected to accept it. Okay, a person on whom a bill of exchange is drawn as one who may be expected to accept it. See the Bills of Honour. See the Bills of Exchange Act. Draw is to make or draft a bill of exchange. See the Bills of Exchange Act. Okay, this is from the New Zealand Law Dictionary. Drawer is a person who draws a bill of exchange. The Bills of Exchange Act, Section 55(1), provides that the drawer of a bill, by drawing it, engages that on due presentation it shall be accepted and paid according to its tenor. Okay, we're going to get into it a bit closer now. So how bills may be drawn. A bill may be drawn payable to or to the order of the drawer. Now, all these terms at the moment are very, very confusing, so we will be showing you them very shortly. In fact, right now. The drawer. Now, there's three parts to the bills of exchange, or three parties. The person who draws the bill is either the local council or any government department that sends you a statement or a demand for money. Okay, the drawer. A bill may be drawn payable to or to the order of the drawer. Now, we just saw who the drawer was. Or it may be drawn payable to or to the order of the drawee. So we need to see who the drawee is, and we will very shortly. Where in a bill drawer and drawee are the same person, or where the drawee is a fictitious person, or a person not having capacity to contract, the holder may treat the instrument at his or her option, either as a bill of exchange or as a promissory note. Okay, so in this case, we know that the drawee is a fictitious person, so we'll have a look at that. We've already had the drawee, but he has sent it to, the drawer has sent it to the drawee, who is the person on whom the bill is drawn. So that is the account set up in the name of the Father. Call it the straw man account, the set of K, whatever you want, but that is who the drawer addresses this to. He cannot address it to the living man, so that would be John Henry. He must address it to Doe, being the drawee. Bills of Exchange Act 1908, where the drawee is a fictitious person. Okay? The drawee is also the acceptor. There are a couple more we will get into shortly as well. But the drawee is also the acceptor. How bills may be drawn. Sorry, we've already covered that, but so we go to here, holder. Now, we already have where the drawee is a fictitious person or a person not having capacity to contract. The holder may treat the instrument at his or her option, either as a bill of exchange or as a promissory note. So now we're going to look at holder. And this is the third party. That's us there. We've got another bill coming to us, and as the holder or bearer is us, we need to know how we accept on behalf of the straw man the bill of exchange, and then we stop taking notes out of our wallet and do the proper thing. So we need to find out how we sign for a deceased person. So we'll have a look in our search engine here for the meaning of PP. And there we have, used to show when someone has signed a document for a person who is not available to sign it. Now, being dead or fictitious, the surname, the name of the father, the straw man cannot sign for the document, so we sign it PP. And now we'll look at the interpretation, section 2 of the Bills of Exchange Act, and we can see acceptance means an acceptance completed by delivery or notice. Now the acceptance is very important. We must accept the bill. If we don't accept the bill and we fight it, we end up paying. Now if we scroll down a little bit there, we'll see holder means the payee. So now we have another name, payee or endorsee of a bill. So now we've got 3 different names for the holder. Endorsement means an endorsement completed by delivery. So when we sign or endorse the instrument and we send it back, that is delivery. Now let's just dive in a bit, because I know there's a lot of confusion over the Sedicay Trust. So one for whom is the trust? The person for whose benefit a trust is created. The person entitled to the equitable as opposed to the legal estate. Thus, if land be granted to A in trust for B, B is the Sedicay Trust. Now, we know that land is us, therefore we are held in trust. So A is the trustee, while B, which is us, we have a beneficial interest. By all means, stop the video and go through, write the words down, get it clear in your own mind. Sedicay use, the person for whose benefit a use was created. The rights of a Sedicay use were the same as those of a Sedicay Trust. Well, we just saw who the Sedicay Trust was, where we have a beneficial interest. The Sedicay Vi, the person for whose life land is granted. Thus, if land is granted to A for the life of B, B is called the Sedicay Vi. So now we're called the Sedicay Vi and the Sedicay Trust. So once you realize that the trust is us, the Sedicay Vi is us, one for whose life, then we don't address the trust set up in the name of the Father as a Sedicay, because that is us. Okay, we are the Sedicay Vi, we are the Sedicay Trust. So when we're referring to a place for payment, we should be addressing the QSIP number or the CUSIP number, depending on how you like to pronounce that word. Now, certainty required as to payee. Where a bill is not payable to bearer, the payee must be named or otherwise indicated therein with reasonable certainty. So the birth certificate number combined with the QSIP number would absolutely give them certainty as where or who was going to pay the bill or who was going to set it off. Payee is a person to whom or to whose order a bill of exchange, check or promissory note is expressed to be payable. Okay, so the payee, you would put your birth certificate number and you would put your QSIP number if you have your QSIP number, and that would make sure that you knew where the account was that they were to reimburse themselves. A bill may be made payable to 2 or more payees jointly. Where the payee is a fictitious or non-existing person, the bill may be treated as payable to bearer. Okay, so the bearer has the right to show where the bill of exchange will be paid. A person or thing that carries, upholds, or brings the Bills of Exchange Act 1908, Section 2 states that the bearer means the person in possession of a bill or note payable to bearer. So when we sign PP, as the bearer, we sign PP, then and show the birth certificate and the QSIP number, they now know where to reimburse themselves. Okay, now if we go to the Commerce Act 1880, an act to consolidate certain laws affecting trade and commerce. Now this is the Mercantile Law Act 1880. Be it enacted by the General Assembly of New Zealand Parliament assembled and by the authority of the same as follows. The short title of this act is the Mercantile Law Act 1880. And oh my goodness, here we find acceptance of bills of exchange. No acceptance of any bill of exchange, whether inland or foreign, shall be sufficient to bind or charge any person unless the same be in writing on such bill. So that's where we have to write on the bill, the acceptance on the bill, and where it has to be paid. Or if there be more than one part of such bill on one of the said parts and signed by the acceptor, or some person duly authorized by him. Now we have the right to sign on behalf of the straw man by PP. We went through that earlier. An acceptance of a bill. Now the acceptance, I told you earlier, is very important. An acceptance of a bill exchange is not and shall not be deemed to be insufficient under any act or law by reason only that such acceptance consists merely of the signature of the drawee on such bill. So that throws another little twist into it there. Okay, now this part tells you here, in reference to the provisions of the Act of the Imperial Parliament of the 9th year of the reign of King George IV, it tells you here an acknowledgement or promise made or contained by or in writing signed by an agent of the party chargeable thereby duly authorized to make such acknowledgement or promise shall have the same effect as if such writing had been signed by the party himself. So there it shows you quite clearly that we can sign PP for the dead man. And this is only an introduction. Watch out for part 2 and good luck.